What's going on, my Flappy family? It's your boy Izzy. Welcome if you're new. This tickle me right here, y'all. This tickle me right here. The guy on the screen here come from Yahoo Sports, basically as Annie Costabile about Caitlin Clark not using her platform strongly to actually advocate for the CBA negotiation to try to get it done. Basically insinuating that she hasn't been doing enough. Man, we got to get into the nonsense.
Yahoo Sports appeared on live television and essentially suggested that Caitlin Clark has not contributed enough when it comes to the WNBA CBA negotiations. The criticism was not aimed at a union leader or a longtime veteran who has participated in several previous negotiations. Instead, the spotlight was placed on Caitlin Clark, the very player many believe has already brought far more value to the league than she has personally received in return. The boldness of that accusation quickly caught attention, and the backlash that followed was even louder. What do you think about it? Has Caitlin Clark done enough to support the WNBA's CBA negotiations, or should she have spoken up more publicly? Share your honest thoughts in the comments right now. Before forming an opinion, it is important to walk through exactly what took place, because the details matter here, and those details are precisely what make this situation so frustrating to watch.
I want to be fair, but also real for a second, right? Like, there is one player in the W that tomorrow could call up Saturday Night Live and host it. There's one player in the W that has that level of platform that everybody pays attention to. Knowing that, while I'm not saying it's her job to come in and fix a league and fix a problem here, we haven't heard a lot from her. She hasn't really used her platform or her voice in a strong way in this process. How much obligation should Caitlin feel at this point from her peers and from her league to stand up and...
A Yahoo Sports analyst named Annie Costello appeared on air and argued that Caitlin Clark has not leveraged her platform strongly enough to help advance the WNBA's CBA negotiations. The way it was presented sounded measured. Costello admitted that it is not technically Clark's responsibility to fix the league's issues, yet the underlying message was unmistakable. Clark possesses the largest platform in women's basketball, the type of visibility that can influence conversations and move things forward. According to that perspective, she simply has not been outspoken enough regarding the current CBA situation. That was the core of the claim. Now let's examine why that argument quickly starts to unravel the moment you look closely at the actual facts.
She should feel obligated at all right? And to say that she hasn't said anything, it shows you're not paying attention. Caitlin already stated they need to play ball. It's as simple as that, man. She said it flat out, clean, very clear so you can understand. They need to play ball. Both sides need to compromise. Basically, during the USA training camp, she said, we need to play. All right.
Caitlin Clark had already addressed the CBA discussion weeks before that television segment ever aired. She spoke about it openly during the USA basketball training camp in North Carolina, making her position clear. Both sides needed to find some level of compromise, and the league needed to return to the court. It was not a quiet comment or something hidden inside a vague social media message. She said it directly in a public setting where reporters immediately picked it up, and the statement spread quickly across sports media. But the reaction that followed was intense. Parts of the WNBA media landscape and several vocal figures within the player community responded with sharp criticism. Some labeled her remarks as anti-union, while others accused her of weakening the collective bargaining effort. Social media quickly filled with comments claiming she did not fully understand the stakes, that she was being naive, or even that she was turning against fellow players. One widely circulated response even described her statement as a very anti-union take, and insisted that players should refuse to play until they received what they believed they deserved. In other words, Clark did speak up. She shared her view publicly, and she faced heavy backlash for doing it. Yet weeks later, some of those same media voices went on television arguing that she had not spoken loudly enough about the issue.
The USA basketball training camp. Now, if we go over here, we have this individual who is tied into the WNBA media, basically stating, need to play basketball, quoting Caitlin Clark and leaving this meme, right? We see what's going on. And the funny thing is, Paige Beckers came out, literally reiterated exactly what Caitlin stated, and look what he does. He just retweets it. So now it's okay for Paige to say it, but Caitlin said it weeks ago. and everybody crucified the woman. I mean, my goodness.
This is the kind of reasoning that only holds up if someone is either not paying attention or is deliberately ignoring what actually happened. Neither explanation reflects well on the people pushing that narrative. What makes the situation even more frustrating is what happened when Paige Bueckers expressed almost the exact same sentiment Clark had shared. Bueckers also said that she wants to play, that she is not interested in a strike, and that both sides need to find a way to move toward a resolution. Yet the reaction to her comments looked completely different. There were no accusations of being anti-union, no wave of criticism from the same voices that had spent weeks attacking Clark, and no social media pile-on. Instead, her remarks were met with agreement, supportive replies, and plenty of retweets. The exact same idea, delivered by a different player, produced a completely different response. If the message itself had truly been the issue, then both players should have faced similar reactions. But that is not what happened. The contrast makes it clear that the real controversy was never about the message itself. It was about who happened to say it first.
Caitlin has already stated what needs to happen. She has done more than enough to help this league. More than enough. Are we forgetting this as well? When Allison Barber stated what Caitlin Clark said to the WNBA about them selling out the away games. Let me play it again so y'all can remember, man. Because some people might have forgot. Look.
After a few away games and all of the sellouts, Caitlin asked the WNBA if they would pay spot bonuses to the away team players. She said, wow, we're making all this new revenue, and I would like the away team to benefit from that. Could they get a spot bonus? So that's the heart of Caitlin Clark. I mean, that's a classy, amazing person.
Caitlin Clark has been dealing with this exact dynamic ever since she entered the league. The downplaying of her influence, the constant attempts to minimize what she has contributed, and the clear double standard applied to her words and actions compared with those of other players have followed her from the very beginning. None of this is particularly new. What does feel different, however, is watching the same pattern unfold on live television in a segment that framed the discussion around Clark's supposed obligations, instead of asking the more obvious question about why the same statement is accepted from one player but criticized when it comes from another. That shift in framing says a lot about how the conversation is being shaped. And before judging whether Clark has done enough, it is worth stepping back and looking at what she has actually brought to the league, because the Yahoo Sports segment seemed to operate with a surprisingly selective memory when it came to her track record and the broader impact she has already had on the WNBA.
For Caitlin by any means, but what I've gathered, having covered Caitlin for years now, even going back to Iowa, covering some of her tournament games at Iowa, I think she's always been a very calculated person. And in the current stage of her schedule, she's not playing anywhere right now. So her media obligations are very limited. So when you look at these other players who are being more vocal, it's not necessarily because they're going out of their way to speak to the media. They are obligated to in different settings, whether it be Unrivaled, Athletes Unlimited. Now, Neko Gumike, the president of the WNBPA, has certainly made herself available. Different members of the executive committee have certainly made themselves available. But when it comes to other players who are not necessarily in union leadership, that access has been limited. And so I get what you're saying in the sense of like Caitlin is the face of the league. She has power. When she speaks, people listen. That's very valid, but she's also a very calculated person when she does speak. And I think the people leading these negotiations are not necessarily asking that of her. And so if you're Caitlin, is it your job to supersede player leadership? I don't think that is a tactic.
Alice Barber once shared a story from early in Caitlin Clark's career that says a lot about the type of person she is. After the Indiana Fever began selling out road arenas, venues that had previously struggled to fill seats before Clark arrived, Clark reportedly approached the WNBA with a suggestion. She asked whether players on the opposing teams could receive small appearance bonuses during those games. Her reasoning was simple and straightforward. The Fever were bringing in new revenue to those arenas, and she believed the players on the teams they were visiting should also benefit from that financial boost. Think about that for a moment. She was a rookie, still in her first season, asking the league to pay other players more because she felt it was the right thing to do. That does not reflect someone who is indifferent toward her peers. Instead, it shows the instinct of someone who recognizes that her presence is generating value and wants to see that value shared with the people around her. The idea that Clark should be using her platform more aggressively also overlooks a basic structural reality that even one of the analysts in the segment acknowledged honestly. At the moment, Clark is not actively playing anywhere, and she does not have the regular media obligations that come with tournaments or league events. The players who have been the most outspoken during this negotiation period, particularly those within union leadership, are currently in positions where they are regularly in front of microphones and cameras. Players who are currently competing in leagues like Unrivaled and Athletes Unlimited naturally have more access to the media because they are participating in events where reporters and cameras are already present. Caitlin Clark is not in those environments right now, which means the comparison between her visibility and that of players actively competing is not exactly fair. Beyond that, people who have covered Clark since her college career at Iowa have often described her as a very deliberate communicator. She does not speak casually or without thinking. When she makes a public statement, it is usually carefully considered rather than impulsive, a trait that has helped her navigate a media landscape that has often been eager to scrutinize her from the moment she entered professional basketball. The individuals leading the CBA negotiations are not sitting around waiting for Clark to step in and resolve everything through a single press conference. The union leadership already has its own structure, its own strategy, and its designated voices handling these discussions. Expecting Clark to step over that leadership or overshadow people who have been directly involved in negotiating these agreements for years is not a reasonable demand for a player who is only in her third professional season. It is also important to recognize the larger pattern here, because the Yahoo Sports segment did not emerge in isolation, but rather fits into a broader conversation that has been building around Clark and her role in the league. The WNBA and parts of its media ecosystem have had a complicated relationship with the reality of Caitlin Clark since the moment she was drafted. Her impact on attendance was immediate and undeniable. Venues sold out from her very first road game, and television ratings surged whenever she played. When she suffered an injury, viewership across the league reportedly dropped by roughly 50, not just for Indiana Fever games, and this decline was documented extensively and publicly. Yet, certain segments of the media responded by attempting to downplay or reframe every one of these data points. Sellouts were dismissed as mere curiosity rather than genuine fan interest. Rating spikes were labeled temporary, and the fan base she brought in was scrutinized, with some questioning whether they were true basketball supporters or simply Clark tourists.